A few days ago, Newcastle United's new CEO, Darren Eales, was interviewed on BBC Radio Newcastle, where he discussed in broad terms the strategic vision of the club and how to grow it and his part in it. And he covered three main areas. One was to grow Newcastle United as a global brand, but also how to maximise the commercial revenue so that more money can be brought into the club to have a bigger pot in order to buy better players in the future. And lastly, with a growing fan base for Newcastle United, how were they going to satisfy everybody to make it a more inclusive club, both for those who can come into St James's Park to watch matches and those who can't. So in this video, I'm going to discuss 5 things that you as Newcastle United fans can expect to happen and to see in real terms over the next 5 years or so. It's coming up. Welcome back, it's Eddie here from Tyneside Life. First of all, a shout out to all you Newcastle United YouTube channels. There's going to be a walk-in football competition in aid of raising money for charity for desperately poor people who can't afford to eat here in this region. It's going to be the middle of November. There's going to be 4 or 5 teams. One is run by Dave Noble. He runs Last Legs walk-in football team. There's going to be some others, but I've been tasked with organising a YouTube football team. So you're all invited, nobody's excluded. If you'd like to be involved in this particular charity competition, get in touch, email me at inquiries@tynesidelife.com, and I'd love to hear from you. Right, let's get back to the football. Of course, Darren Eales talked about in his interview about the excitement in the business and commercial sector of companies who want to get involved in Newcastle United. Of course, there are still 1 or 2 long-standing contractual obligations with various companies involved in Newcastle United. Don't scratch the surface of my knowledge and all that. These things are always very, very complicated. Needless to say, he's excited by the commercial interest in Newcastle United, which leads me on to number 1, and that's the sponsorship, the naming rights of St James's Park. Now, I recently did a poll on my YouTube channel where I asked the question if you would be happy for St James's Park to be renamed, if that meant huge amounts of revenue being put into the pot to buy new players. Almost 2,000 of you have voted, and 54% of you are in favour, who would be happy for St James's Park to be renamed. There is a caveat to some of you who voted, who said that as long as it was named by sponsorship company at St James's Park, for example. Needless to say, it looks like we're probably going to go ahead in the next year or 2 with this big sponsorship deal with St James's Park. A bit like Spurs are about to go ahead with a big deal with Google worth an estimated £1 billion. Can you believe that? So I think you can see Spurs up there in the top 6 over the next 2 or 3 years, but also Barcelona with the Spotify Camp Nou. So these are going to generate huge amounts of money for the club, and if it happens for Newcastle United, I have to say, you know, a guy in the know told me a few months ago that the sponsorship revenue that the new sponsor can throw at the club has to be in proportion with the ticket sales. So I would expect, as you probably are anyway, that ticket sales are going to go up and up over the next 2 or 3 years. But I think as well, in terms of who, I think we have to think outside the box as well. There's a lot of talk of Aramco. Guys, we don't want Aramco, we don't want an oil company, man. We need to be thinking bigger than that, outside the box, you know, like Adidas, some big global brand of Netflix. I don't know if that's a good idea, but you get the picture. Some massive international corporation, some business who is going to have a vested interest in Newcastle. Because, for example, if it was Adidas having sponsorship rights and naming rights of the stadium, they could also make our kit if they had in mind to sever their contract with Castoria. So you could have Castor kit, the Adidas kit, Adidas stadium. But who knows? Whichever way you look at it, it's almost likely to happen, and it can only be a good thing for the growth of this club, in my opinion. In number 3, I'm going to be talking about the possibilities of expansion of St James's Park, which I cover a lot in my guided tour. But first of all, number 2, which is going to impact on this and what we can expect as fans over the next year or 2, is this land in Strawberry Place behind the Gallagher End, right next to the Strawberry, where you can see me here, where it is planned there's an application currently in for 4 tower blocks to be built here, including a hotel and some student accommodation. Now, the original company that had bought the land from Mike Ashley a few years ago, the High Street Group, they went into administration. Some of you will know that this project was taken on by the Strawberry Developments Limited. They currently have an application in with Newcastle City Council to basically have the same buildings there but with some slight alterations. So that's still going through the process at the moment. It's actually went to the next stage where, as part of their application, that they're at the discharging conditions process, where the council have went back to Strawberry Developments Limited and asked for some more details on one or two things. So it looks like this development is going to go ahead, unfortunately, for these tower blocks, and that's going to impact significantly on what can happen to the Gallagher End, which I'll come to in number 3. Now, having said all that, it's not beyond the realms of possibility these things happen, where, for example, Newcastle United could jump in and buy the land of Strawberry Developments. That could well happen. Even if it does, even if that were to happen tomorrow, this is a lengthy process of buying the land, etc., then coming up with plans, architectural designs and drawings, putting them in back and forwards with the council. This could take a couple of years, even to get the nod to say, aye, let's rebuild the Gallagher End, stretching over Strawberry Place Road here, just down below me. Darren Neils has kind of inferred in his interview that he's in discussions with lots of people. That includes Newcastle City Council. There's nothing specific about expansion. He's doing that as part of his new job. He's going out, he's networking, he's building relationships. He'll be talking to the council just to get a feel for things, finding out who's who and just getting the lay of the land. There'll be nothing specific being discussed with extensions of the Gallagher. They don't own that land, so nothing can be done. But I thought I'd just let you know, number 2. Not very good news about this land behind you. So number 3, and this is stadium expansion. I could talk about this subject for hours. I cover it in detail and with context in my guided walk. Now, Amanda and Mehrdad did say in their interview with The Athletic in May that they confirmed that they're not going to move stadiums, they're not going to build a new one. They're going to try and expand this to 60, possibly 65 after the right time and in consultation with Newcastle City Council. Darren Neils in his interview has reconfirmed that they're going to look to expand in St James's Park when the timing's right. Now, you should take that as read, because quite a few months ago I was convinced Saudi Arabia and the PIF would look to build a brand new spanking state-of-the-art stadium. I know now, well, as sure as I can be, that's a load of rubbish. They're not going to build a new stadium. They are going to look to expand that. So when the owners talk about expansion, you know, and you hear hooves behind you, don't think that they're zebras, they're horses. Yeah, it is what it is. They will, by hook or by crook, look to expand St James's Park. And like I say, I talk about this on my guided tour. So how they're going to do that? Well, I think they're going to, with the limitations, but also the beauty of having a city centre stadium, they already have what Darren Neils refers to as that champagne conundrum. We've got a full stadium right in the city centre. Within half a mile we'll have 108 bars. There's only Wolves, who are second behind that. They have 38. Yeah, there's no other club like Newcastle that's got a stadium where it is. And I'm quite certain, absolutely certain, that the Saudi ownership will either don't have the motivation to compromise the history of Newcastle, i.e. start knocking buildings down and moving stadiums, and certainly it makes no economic sense to the PIF to build a new stadium, because make no bones about it, Newcastle United are going to benefit massively from this arrangement. Of course we are. We're going to be in the top 6 in a few years' time, but rest assured, this isn't about Newcastle United. This is about Saudi Arabia's own economic vision. And when you look at it through that lens and that context, it makes it absolutely abundantly clear they are not, I'm absolutely certain, going to fork out £1 billion, £2 billion to move this 20-30 yards over there, disrupt the whole business plan over the next few years to grow the club, to get into the Champions League. Just makes no sense whatsoever. That's my overwhelming view on it. So I have developed my own ideas of where they can get 60,000 out of St James's Park. Part of it involves rebuilding the East Stand with some permission from the Secretary of State for Culture in relation to Leazes Terrace, with new technologies, with new materials, to get 3 or 4 extra thousand in a brand new East Stand, and that includes some safe standing areas, possibly for away fans. I also have ideas about the Gallowgate and how they can make expansion to that without building a huge cantilever stadium like the Millburn and Sir John Hall Bra. I don't want to spoil my own thunder from my guided tours. If you want to find out more in detail about how all this is probably going to work, get yourself booked on one of my courses. Yeah. So number 4, Darren Neils touches on in his interview about how he's going to satisfy a growing number of Newcastle United fans, not just locally but nationally and with international supporters as well. How is the club going to be more inclusive to make sure that all Newcastle fans in some way or another feel included in this brilliant movement and where we're going at the moment? And that's not an easy feat to do. But part of that is probably going to be with the likes of fan zones on match day around the city, but also as well possibly a Newcastle United TV channel. There might be something that they have in America called Tailgate. But anyway, I'm not going to delve into detail in this particular video about this particular subject, number 4, because on Thursday I'm filming a video with Rob Rubenstein. He's got his own channel about this very topic where we're going to drill into it in a little bit more detail. So if you want to watch that video, make sure you subscribe below so you don't miss out on it. And number 5, both Darren Ashworth and Darren Neils have made the point that they're going to be making sustainable investment in players over the next few years. There's probably not going to be marquee signings of huge players. Dan Ashworth mentions that they can't, and it's not sustainable to spend £200 million every year. So they're going to be bringing through youth academy players where they can, but they're also going to be bringing in the right players at the right time at the right price. Because Newcastle United can't afford to make a mistake in the transfer market. Not like the likes of Man City and Liverpool that can spend 50 million and then hey-ho, it doesn't quite work out. It's not devastating for them. We can't do that because, as Darren Neils points out, commercially we are way off the top 6 at the moment. We're not a big club at the moment. We're going to have to slowly and very gradually work up to that point. So we as fans are going to have to be patient. There's going to be some little blips here and there, but they're going to make the right investments. And I think Dan Ashworth said there's going to be probably 3 transfer windows to get the team where they want it to be at its optimum, where we're going to be challenging hopefully for trophies in 5 or 6 years' time. There's going to be that sustainable investment. And I tell you what, as a bonus one, number 6 is the growth of the women's football team over the next few years. We're going to see them rising up through the league. Newcastle United are determined to promote women's empowerment and women's football, in particular Newcastle United, to get them up at playing at the highest level in the Premier League. That starts right now, but also on the November 27th we've got a game against Bradford here at St James's Park, where we want to smash that 22,000 record capacity here, and the club need everybody's support. So get yourself along, get yourself a ticket, and I'm sure it'll be a cracking match. Anyway, that's my video for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you did like it, give us a thumbs up.